All right, good evening. My name is Frank Mendoza. I'm from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I do want to emphasize that I'm here tonight to facilitate the statutorily required cannabis community outreach. This is an application at 1955 Beacon Street, operated by Happy Valley. This meeting is scheduled until 9 p.m. Any comments that there was not time for can be emailed to me afterwards and the Cannabis Board. I will put my email into the chat right now. Before we start, I'd like to go over my expectations for tonight's meeting. I know this can be a sensitive topic. I want to make it clear that no decisions are being made tonight, and at no time will it be acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone during the meeting. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. There is no right or wrong opinion. We are here tonight to try to collect as many comments, questions, or concerns for this proposal. I am not here to facilitate debates amongst neighbors or relitigate state legislation. I ask that all questions be directed towards the applicant and myself only. The applicant will answer all questions related to their proposal to the best of their ability, and I will answer questions related to the city's process. The city holds a meeting, which is this one, and then they'll proceed to the Cannabis Board and then to the Cannabis Control Commission at the state. If I am unable or the applicants are unable to answer questions tonight, we will follow up with you after the meeting to get that information to you. This is an open comment period. Meaning, if you do not get called on tonight, or if you think of questions that have not been answered, all you need to do is reach out to us and we will work to get you that information. My contact information has been included on the flyer you received to attend this meeting. As I mentioned, it is also in the chat. There will be no questions during the presentation. Once again, this is not a debate on the legalization or morality of cannabis. That debate occurred at the ballot box, and we are here today because it was overwhelmingly supported in the city. The applicant will go through the presentation in a timely manner, and the remainder of the time will be for questions and answers. Each person will have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak. I will be timing each. Once the 2 minutes have passed, I will then move on to the next question. Thank you for taking the time to participate in tonight's meeting. I will now hand it over to the applicants for the presentation.
I'm curious.
Thank you, Frank. I'm going to share the screen if that's okay. And can you see that all right, Frank?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make that full screen mode. Great. Thanks, Frank, for facilitating the meeting, and thanks to all the attendees who came out. My name is Jeff Drago. I'm a zoning and permitting attorney in Boston, and I am here on behalf of my client, Happy Valley, or HVV Massachusetts, Inc. They're known as Happy Valley. And we have Michael Reardon, who's the CEO, who's here with me tonight as well. And we are here to talk about a proposed cannabis dispensary, both medicinal as well as recreational, at 1955 Beacon Street and Cleveland Circle in the Brighton neighborhood. Many of you may have come to some of our past meetings. We have been before the community, the Civic Association, and the Cannabis Board, and we're fortunate to get approved for a dispensary both by the Cannabis Board, the CCC, and the Zoning Board of Appeal at 1937 Beacon Street a couple of years back. This is a lengthy process, and as we started to go through the process, a number of hurdles and obstacles had come up, but we got an opportunity to change locations potentially and to lease the property at 1955 Beacon Street. And when we get into the comments and questions, I'm sure that it'll come up, but we just want to address some of them right at the onset. We felt that this was a much better location for a number of reasons. One, the building is freestanding, it's built out, it's up to code. The building at 1937 Beacon Street, when we started to get into the construction, was going to end up having to likely be a tear down. This is a much more prominent lot, bigger parcel, and good visibility, but also most importantly for both the business owner as well as the community is the fact that there are 13 parking spaces on site that we can utilize for patrons, staff, and there's a whole section in the back for pickup and delivery, and also for pickup and drop off of any vehicles, ride sharing, anything like that. And that seemed to be one of the biggest issues we heard when we came out to the community the last time. So we felt this was a much better location for those reasons. I'm going to be sharing the screen and showing you a presentation. We're going to run through location, layout of the building, who Happy Valley is, and then we're going to be here to our security plan, hiring plan, and then answer any questions that folks have. So I appreciate your time tonight. Again, this is our team, and we have, as I mentioned, HV Massachusetts Inc. and Michael Reardon, who's the CEO and co-founder, and you'll hear from Michael a little later on. My office is legal counsel, and then David Hunt from American Alarm. He's our security consultant for Happy Valley. But we also have John Hugo from Happy Valley, I believe, who's going to be on to answer any operations or security questions as they come up. And then Michael and myself, just from experience, can answer any of those as well. What's the proposal? Again, this is to change the occupancy from restaurant. As most of you know, this building was housed by a Dunkin' Donuts for a number of years. That lease ran out. There was an opportunity for someone else to move in there. That's when this came to Happy Valley's attention. And so we would be changing that from that commercial restaurant use to a cannabis establishment. That is what the Boston zoning code determines this type of use to be. And again, I had mentioned this would be servicing both medicinal and recreational cannabis. The particular zoning sub-district, it is in the Cleveland Circle area, but it's a neighborhood shopping district. And so this type of use does require approval, obviously, for the cannabis license itself or the dispensary license from the Boston Cannabis Board, but it also requires relief from the Boston Zoning Board. However, in this particular location, because it is commercial, it is only a conditional use variance that's required. It is not a forbidden use in this area because of the commercial component. The building also falls within the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District. We are keeping the building as is. As I had mentioned, this building is in good shape. It's completely built out. So there is minimal work that has to be done. It would all be interior work. The only thing we would be adding, obviously, some improvements, but basically signage, doors, windows, that kind of thing. The lot size is large for this kind of establishment. It's 7,069 square feet, and that encompasses both the entire first floor and all of the parking around it. And then there's also a full basement downstairs that we'll be utilizing as well when we get into the floor plans. This is just, again, just a few facts here. Just talks about recreational marijuana was approved on November 8th, 2016 by ballot. The Allston Brighton community supported the legalization with 71% of the community voting in favor. This particular application was applied for both at the Cannabis Board, which starts the process, but then at the same time in conjunction, because we are required to have, we will have zoning relief because of the conditional use. We did file with the Boston Inspectional Services Department on October 13th, 2002. We received a refusal letter or a turn down letter on March 6th, 2023. This allows us to start the community process. We have had ongoing community outreach. This is our first official abutter meeting. We will continue to meet through the BAIA, the Brighton Allston Improvement Association, which we have appeared in the past for our other location. Continue to meet with our city and elected officials to get their input as well, and all of the neighbors, which is most important. So marijuana establishment, as I mentioned, in this area is a conditional use that requires a variance. There are also a couple of other compliance issues. One is the buffer zone requirement. You're not permitted to be located within 500 feet of a pre-existing public or private school, providing education in kindergarten, grades 1 through 12. We meet that boundary and we're in compliance. To not be located within a half of a mile of any existing cannabis establishment. The only one that we would violate would be our own, And since we are not going to pursue that as part of this approval, if we were to get approved at the Cannabis Board, it would be contingent on relinquishing the rights at our establishment at 1937 Beacon Street, which means that we would meet or be in compliance with the buffer zone. This is just you're going to see a few site pictures in the aerial view. So the pink highlighted area is the parcel at 1955 Beacon, and you can just see the commercial building that's behind it. When we get a little closer, you'll see some of the parking. You can see the area metered parking across the street and around the Green Line T station. We are right along that Green Line stop, which makes it ideal for folks using other modes of transportation. But this particular location having 13 parking spaces for those folks that would be traveling or coming from, you know, a little bit of a distance or other parts of Brighton makes it ideal because you don't find that often in the city. We also have a number of commercial buildings right around us and the MBTA building obviously behind. This is just a front photo of the existing structure. So again, that building would remain intact, and that's already built out. We would be keeping that building. And you can see also in front, there's also 2-hour parking for about 3 spaces in front of the building as well. This is a view across the street. So you've got some residential ways away, multi-family residential apartment style buildings, and then you've got the commercial spaces in front of it. This is a view looking down Beacon the other way. You can see the Green Line running on the left, our building where the red arrow is on the right side. You can see those parking spaces, and then there's some more metered parking as you go a little bit further down the street. This is just a view up Beacon Street. So we're about 150 feet away from the old location, about 250 feet away from the CBS building. And you can just see some of the commercial activity around us. So what are the proposed operation of the dispensary? So standard, we're 9 a.m. We're proposing to 9 p.m. At this location. We have an estimate of daily visitors. If we get into it a little bit further, you'll see Happy Valley has other locations, another one in Boston on McClellan Highway. So Michael is good about being able to track based on other locations. We actually have that experience to go by. So our estimated daily visitors are 295. And the approximate length of time for patrons are about 15 minutes in the store. A lot of the ordering now is done online. And so it's almost like express pickup when you get in there with the advent of iPads and technology moves folks right along so they can really pre-order all of this. And it's more of just going inside, verifying IDs and safety and picking up. And then a little bit just on who Happy Valley is. They're an established marijuana company. They provide consumers with safe and convenient access to lab-tested cannabis product and educational resources. I mentioned who the team is, John Gray, John Hugo, and Michael. And these are just some of their other locations in Massachusetts. So 38 Great Republic Drive in Gloucester. It's cultivation, manufacturing, and has retail dispensary. That's a large location at 50,000 square feet. 2 Opportunity Way in Newburyport, Mass. That is cultivation and product manufacturing, research and development, and again, large location, 86,000 square feet. And then this is Happy Valley in Boston, another location. This is the one that we got approved in East Boston. Very similar. It's both recreational as well as medicinal, and that's located at 220 William F. McClellan Highway in East Boston. It's got retail dispensary. It's 8,000 square feet, and similar to this location, does have provide parking, which, as I said, in a lot of these dispensaries, that's rare. So we now just move on to the site plan so folks can just see the layout. This is the structure laid out on the site, and you can just see all of the parking spaces that are existing, which will remain. 1 handicap accessible space. All the other ones are lined. And this access point If you look there where the arrows are, there's a curb cut opening that will remain so folks can pull right in to our location if they're driving, or for all of our pickup and drop off can be a drop off of product and cannabis can be done on site away from the busy street area in the back of the house, in the back of the building. And these are just, I'm going to try to get through this quickly. These are just the existing floor plans of the Dunkin' Donuts, which, as I had mentioned, we're keeping everything. The structure will remain. We're just changing everything in the inside. Basement, 1,627 square feet. And we go up to the first floor, 1,795 square feet. Existing elevation. So again, building remains, but this just shows you the front, back, and sides of the building. And then once, if we were to be approved and built out, this just shows you the layout of the dispensary. So in the basement area, there would be a bathroom, break room for staff, security office, management office, cooler, freezer, mechanical rooms, and then the vault that would hold and house the product. We then have the first floor, and you can see the front entrance. It will show you better in our rendering, but on the front of the building along Beacon Street would be the entrance point. Folks would come in. There would be a vestibule area. There would be ID check-in. We're going to go through that as we get into security. There's multiple ID checks as folks are let in, but then that's the showroom. So you can see check-in, sales counter, private consult area, 2 bathrooms, security, and receiving door. This again is our signage on the building. So you can see the elevations remain. You can see where we would have new windows and some doors and the Happy Valley logo on the building. That's just a better rendering. So it shows the door in the front. It shows the signage, and then as we go along, we'll have some better renderings for folks to see as we get into this a little bit further. And then this is just talks a little bit about the customer experience. So as I had mentioned, folks may order everything online for express pickup. There would be in-store kiosks to allow for a streamlined checkout process, just again, to make the experience faster and to get folks in and out safely. CCC, or Cannabis Control Commission regulations, allow Happy Valley to refuse a transaction if signs of diversion, intoxication, or abuse are spotted. Adult use customers are limiting to purchasing 1 ounce of flower or 5 grams of concentrate per day. Our retail hosts are educated on the attributes of all of our products and are trained to focus their attention on the customer's needs. Any customer who is caught attempting to resell any of our products will be permanently banned from the facility. And again, this talks a little bit about or in detail about the customer experience and ID verification process, which folks always ask. So all customers enter the facility. They are verified as 21 and older for recreational. Identification will be verified by using the electric license scanner, which is important. So that's the highest technology. Identification is verified a second time at the point of sale. And then identification is verified a third time when the customer is handed their order and that is filled. And then any use, just to point out, use of any false ID would result in a permanent ban from the store and a referral to local law enforcement. And again, so just to talk a little bit about, because we know how important parking and any mention of loitering. So loitering is not tolerated. We have a whole security system with cameras and on site to monitor that. Grounds will be constantly monitored for loitering and suspicious activity. And then, any illegal parking would not be tolerated and those vehicles would be removed. Hiring and management practices. This is something we are required to talk a little bit about, and folks may have questions, so we want to just jump ahead. Annual agent registration applies to all dispensary agents. Excuse me, sorry. Jumped ahead by accident. Employees, managers, volunteers. Verifies that employees have a clean criminal history. Verifies that all employees understand the CCC regulations regarding transportation and sale of marijuana, and verifies that the employees understand the CCC protocols regarding dispensing and storage of marijuana. Diversity and inclusion plan. So again, goal number 1 is to recruit and hire diverse groups of employees, which we have done in the past, and to reflect the 01235, so this area's zip code census data for diversity. 2, to commit to working with minority business enterprises for supplemental business services. 3, meet and exceed the Boston Jobs and Living Wage Ordinance. And then finally, 4, commit to working with community leaders with a focus of hiring minorities and individuals from communities impacted by the war on drugs. And this is something that Happy Valley does in all the communities that they have a presence in. This is just a lot about our security and American Alarm. Michael, I don't know, is anyone on that wants to talk specifically from our team, or do you want me to run through it?
John, Jeff, I can't see who's all in the meeting. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just run through it, and then if there's any questions from folks after, John can answer that. But our security system is compliant with 935 CMR 500. Happy Valley has engaged American Alarm, as I had mentioned earlier, of Arlington, Mass, for security design, installation, and monitoring services for our alarm system. American Alarm has worked closely with the DPH and CCC on multiple cannabis-related locations throughout Massachusetts to ensure that the requirements are satisfied correctly. All supplies and assets will be secured against external threats and properly monitored to prevent any diversion. Security, again, HVV design is a fully integrated system throughout the facility. That includes HDV videos with lighting conditions, I-class technology, access control devices, dual path alarm, monitoring at the central station. Our detailed security plan complies with 935 CMR 500, developed in consultation with American Alarm. This details how all of the products and assets will be secured against any external threats and best practices to prevent diversion. Then we have training to include industry standards and crime prevention code of conduct. I do see John Graham. Just our delivery protocol. So this is just to ensure as cannabis is delivered to the facility, there's a number of monitoring devices and checks that we go through. 1, all delivery vehicles are unmarked and feature GPS monitoring, randomized routes and schedules. Drivers are registered agents with training and secure transport. 2 agents accompany every delivery. Dispensary agents notified in advance of delivery. Dispensary agents meet delivery agents. Agents bring inventory into the facility, count and weigh inventory to ensure quantities match manifest. Process takes about 20 minutes, depending on the volume, and we anticipate 1 to 2 deliveries per week. So we try to keep that minimal at this particular location. I'm going to talk a little bit about public transportation, which we touched upon. Obviously, 1955 Beacon is a great location. Obviously, aside from the parking on site, we are riding the Cleveland Circle Green Line. So we have the C line running, D line, and the B line, along with the bus routes 51 and 86. We have those 13 on-site parking spaces. We have 2-hour parking right across the street. We have 2-hour parking in front of our building right at the entrance. And even as you go down the street, there is 2-hour parking. But the hope is over time, this is going to be a local establishment that folks can also walk to in this immediate area as well. We also have 89 metered spaces surrounding the front and the side of the building as well. And then this is our final slide, just again on parking. This just maps out where all those parking spaces are located in conjunction with our location right down below. And at that, we can pause and answer any questions that folks have. And I thank you for listening to the presentation.
All right, thank you to the team for that presentation. We're gonna go ahead and open it up for questions. Before we start, I'd just like to remind everyone, like we said, the questions will be directed to myself or to the applicant. If you don't have your question answered or think of a question after this meeting is over, you can always put it in writing, send it to myself. My email is already in the chat, but I'll put it in again. I will either forward it to the applicant to connect you, or I will answer it myself if it's something related to the city that I can answer. But just because your comment wasn't answered tonight doesn't mean that it won't be answered ever. Comments and questions made in writing have the same weight as those made verbally during this meeting. Again, we're going to keep it 2 minutes. Everything's going to remain respectful. Otherwise, we will mute those comments. Comments will also be muted that go longer than 2 minutes. So first, can I have anybody who received a certified mailer who is a butter within 300 feet raise their hand using the reaction button at the bottom of their screen? I'll give it a couple of seconds. I just want to see those hands raised first. All right, next, I'd like to see anybody who is not a butter within 300 feet, but who is within the Cleveland Circle community to raise their hands as well. And this is only if folks want to speak. If you don't want to speak, that's totally all right. Anybody who's from the larger Brighton community, please raise your hand. Thank you. And now if there's anybody who is from outside of the community of Brighton, but would still like to speak on the project, please raise your hands at this time. Again, that button is at the bottom of your screen. If you look for the reactions button and you click on it, you should see a button right there that says raise hand. You'll click on that and your hand will be raised. If you're dialing in by your phone, you can dial *6 and *9 to raise your hand and to be unmuted. Again, that's *6 and *9 if you're dialing by phone. All right, we have a good amount of hands raised, so we're going to start going through the list now. Again, 2 minutes. So the first hand that I see raised is John Lau. So John Lau, I've asked you to unmute. Your 2 minutes begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening. This presentation has been good. I haven't heard anything about social equity or anything about helping minorities. So yeah, good evening. I'm here as a social equity approved applicant from the state of Massachusetts to oppose, make sure you got that on record, to oppose Happy Valley at 1955 Beacon Street. I have been fighting against Happy Valley since 2018. First, I was to rent my location before Happy Valley, and I applied with the city of Boston before them, and I applied with the CCC before them, before they tried to apply with the Mary Ann's location. I have lived within a half mile of the proposed location since 1985. I have been arrested for marijuana. My family has been affected by the war on drugs. I have over 1,500 signatures in opposition of Happy Valley at 1955 Beacon Street. I repeat, 1,500 signatures, all of which the addresses are from Beacon Street, Calm Ave, Chiswick Road, Sutherland Road, all these places that you don't know of. I used to go to the Ground Round for lunch. You don't know about the Ground Round. Not many people do. It's been gone for a while. But once again, I have over 1,500 signatures in opposition of Happy Valley. I have the support of all businesses in the area. Just to name some of your opposition: Bin's Sushi, Cleveland Circle Convenience, Cleveland Circle Pizza, Chinese Body Works, Nail Salon, 7-Eleven, and now on the Beacon Street. Hunan Happy Restaurant, Energize, Pino's Pizza, Eagles Deli, Reservoir Wine and Liquor, Kung Fu Tea, and the vape shop where I am located. I'm a small business owner since 2018. I paid over $250,000 in rent. I'm a minority that has been affected by the war on drugs. You guys already have 2 locations, if I'm correct, Gloucester and East Boston. I heard you guys bought the Bank of America right next to me too. And that is a question for you, Drago. Jeff Drago, can you answer me if you guys bought the Bank of America right next to 354 Chestnut Hill Avenue? Just because you guys throw all this money at Cleveland Circle doesn't mean you deserve the area more than a social equity approved applicant. from the state. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. I'll pass that over to the applicant to answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information or comment given. I would say I didn't hear a lot about why this location wouldn't work. We don't have control on who the city or state gives out licenses to. Obviously, we applied as an applicant before. We were approved. This we feel is a better location, not only for Happy Valley, but also the community because of the parking. I'm not going to get into the merits of why another dispensary did not get approved. I don't know anything about it. But I don't know how the community process worked, I don't know how the city process worked, but all I can do is answer questions about Happy Valley directly. I don't know, Michael, is there anything else? I know there was a lot in there that you wanted to touch upon.
Yeah, I think there was a question about whether or not we bought a Bank of America building. Was not purchased by our group.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
the next raised hand that I see is Ava Webster. So I've asked you to unmute. Your 2 minutes begin whenever you're ready. I'll give you a 1 minute warning.
Okay, thanks so much. I didn't realize I would be the first one. We had a long process for the location at Mary Ann's, and I would be the first one to admit that this is probably a better location because of parking and deliveries. There would be a tremendous problem with deliveries right on Beacon Street if Mary Ann's location was used. But I'm concerned about this. In the chat, there's just a lot of people supporting some other applicant to run this business here. And in my experience, from what I have heard from my neighbors, there is a huge neighborhood opposition to any pot shop here. Of course, there will always be some people who use marijuana and they disagree, but we really don't need this thing here. And I want to be on record as being opposed to it. Thank you. And one other thing, when the store was proposed for Mary Ann's, I don't remember if it was Happy Valley or some other outfit, but they proposed community benefits to some organization outside of Austin Brighton, had nothing to do with Cleveland Circle. And I really would like to know, in case this goes through, and I hope it doesn't, but in case it goes through, what kind of community benefits is this applicants willing to provide that would benefit Cleveland Circle aesthetics and welcoming feel for the neighborhood?
Can I answer that, Frank, just quickly?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Ava, for the comments. And yes, it was Happy Valley that was approved and went through the community process at 1937 Beacon Street. In working with the BAIA, the elected officials, Michael Reardon and Happy Valley made a number of commitments to mitigation and the community, and those would all still stand at this new location as well. So we are always, Happy Valley's always open to working with the community, but everything we committed to would still stand. And we just feel, obviously, that was approved and would still, if this did not get approved, we would still move forward with Mary Ann's. We feel this is just a much better location, but all of the commitments that were made would stand.
Okay, the next hand I see raised is Faye Rua. I've asked you to unmute whenever you're ready. Your 2 minutes begin.
Hi, my name is Faye Roop, and I live at 2400 Beacon Street. I'm wondering if the city of Boston has contemplated doing any sort of traffic study for the Cleveland Circle area, because the intersection of Beacon and Chestnut Hill was under tremendous scrutiny when they built Waterstone and the hotel. At the time when they built both buildings, the intersection of Beacon and Cleveland Circle was given a D rating. With all of these cars now coming in to come to Happy Valley, I'm really concerned about what's going to happen to the traffic flow. And I think it's going to make the lives of people who live in the area much more difficult. So I'd like to register my opposition and want to know if the city of Boston is considering doing any sort of traffic study.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I know Boston Transportation Department has some initiatives that they are starting to pick up speed with in Cleveland Circle soon. If you send me an email, you and I can connect about that. If you're subscribed to my newsletter, then you should already be seeing that information go out there once every 2 weeks. But if you're not subscribed, we can definitely get you set up with that. But yeah, like I said, just send me an email and you and I can connect and I can get you a list of all of those Boston Transportation programs that will be picking up speed in Cleveland Circle coming soon. The next raised hand I see is E. Chajes. So I've asked you to unmute whenever you're ready.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ellen Chias. I live in the Embassy Road area. I have a couple of security concerns. How far, I guess my first question is, how far is the park, the beginning of the park? How many feet away is it from Happy Valley? Now, we know that there are a lot of baseball games there, especially now during the spring. What is to prevent a patron of Happy Valley from going into the park and trying to sell his whatever he bought? How far are the security guards going to be placed? The other question is how does one prevent students that go to school on Clinton Road and on Reservoir Road from loitering around waiting for someone to leave? And what's to prevent anyone from actually going into the park and smoking? So those are three questions.
Jeff, would you like me?
Yeah, if you, John, yeah, sorry, if you could take that.
Hi, ma'am. To answer your first question about the kids going to the park and consuming cannabis, that's a mass law. That's against law, public consumption. So that's something that the Boston Police would get involved with. And if by the way, I'm the director of security for Happy Valley, and if that was observed, my staff would contact the Boston Police Department right away and have those people taken care of. The question about loitering around the property with kids waiting for people to purchase products, that's also a regulation. There's a specific regulation that prohibits any loitering around the property. We have policies and procedures in place that as soon as customer makes their purchase, they are asked politely to leave. And if they don't leave, again, law enforcement is contacted. So by regulation, there's no loitering. And like I said, public consumption is against the law. And we would call Boston Police Department right away if we did notice something like that.
All right, the next raised hand I see is Orfeo.com, the best for my K. So I've asked you to unmute yourself whenever you're ready. I'll give it another couple of minutes.
Sorry, couldn't find the mute button.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't have so many questions, but just more comments. I mean, everything that you've said is pretty standard of what you would expect you guys to do as a business. So you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing. I don't think the area warrants it. There's plenty of ways you guys can distribute. You guys are a huge operation. Cleveland Circle does not need cannabis. You don't need to advertise it on the corner for people to drive by. You're sending the wrong message to kids. You're gonna have college kids there constantly, just like Marianne's. Everyone's drinking. There's enough package stores. You know, if you guys did have the Bank of America building that's a little more hidden, that would be a good spot for it. But to advertise it right on the corner, like my kids are driving by all day long.
1 minute.
You can say what you want about, calling the police when people are smoking, but my kids smell pot in Cleveland Circle. They've been here, they were born here. They're 14 and 16 now. You always smell pot there. Police aren't going to do anything about it. That's just a joke. You bring up a lot of other things, transportation. Like, we don't need people coming into Cleveland Circle to buy pot. Like someone else said, there's delivery places. Everyone's going to park in CVS like they already do. You can say how great the parking is. It's just really everything that you've said is smoke and mirrors. You just don't need it there. I have nothing against pot. I've sold facilities. I know I've been in the business through sales of facilities for 8 years since the beginning.
All right, sorry about that, but that is 2 minutes, so we're gonna go to the next hand. Next hand I have raised is PJ Sheldon.
just-
So I've asked
sorry,
you to
Frank.
unmute yourself. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
For the
sorry, I'll be
response, I
very quick.
apologize.
That's okay. I just want to be clear. So in terms of signage, I know it was mentioned advertising. The only thing they're going to see in the building is the Happy Valley logo. So there is no, signs of marijuana or what's sold or anything like that. That's prohibited. And then two, I just again want to point out that it was, cannabis dispensary was approved a few years back in Cleveland Circle. So that's already been approved. We're just looking to change the location to what we feel would actually, and I know parking's always an issue, but if you were going to get one or the other, this would actually provide more parking for both staff as well as anyone that would be coming in to buy product. And the truth of the matter is we showed you the map. There's just no lines at these places that we own. And this would literally be walking foot traffic and a few cars at a time. So thank you.
Okay, now I will ask PJ Sheldon to unmute whenever you're ready. Your 2 minutes begin.
Steve Sheldon. I'm a graduate of Boston College. I live about a 20-minute walk from Cleveland Circle. I go there a lot. I live adjacent to Brighton Center in Boston College.
PJ, I'm sorry. Can you come a little closer to the microphone? I paused your time, but we just can't really hear you that well.
Can you hear me better now?
It's a little bit better. I think we'll be able to catch your meaning, but I'll stop you if we can't hear you at any point. Whenever you're ready, you can resume.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. I'm a graduate of Boston College. I live 20-minute walk to Cleveland Circle. I frequent it often. I know it's already been approved, a location in Cleveland Circle. I think this is the wrong one, as Orfeo was just talking about on the corner. It's going to be too well advertised, too close to the park with all the kids that are using the park. It's going to cause more policing issues. I know you're not going to be policing the park. So for you to say if you think there's a problem, you're just going to call BPD and they'll take care of it is really more of a burden on our community. And having it that much in the face of everybody driving by, it needs to be more discreet since it's been approved, not front and center on the corner. It's really disturbing to me that this is also so close to the college. I know you've approved a location, but it doesn't need to be this location, this accessible.
1 minute.
Display. Boston College students have a lot of struggles with substance abuse already. They don't need this out in front of them. It's just, you need a more discreet location. I wish you weren't doing this at all. I think it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace for public health and the welfare of the college students and all the kids that use the park. Thank you.
Okay, applicant, if there's anything that you'd like to address there, feel free to do so, but otherwise we can move on to the next hand. All right, the next raised hand that I see is Cheryl Weinstein. So I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin.
Yes, my name is Dr. Cheryl Weinstein. I'm a neuropsychologist. The research on brain damage associated with cannabis was not available at the time of the approval. The risk of psychosis for young people, cognitive change and cognitive dulling is absolutely well documented. Mayor Wu needs to come down and explain to us why there needs to be a marijuana site near a public park. There are kids can get there by bus. They can get there by 2 trains. This is absolutely outrageous. Marijuana is good for individuals who have cancer, they can go to Dana-Farber that's very near here. It's good for multiple sclerosis patients and babies with seizures. Otherwise, it's bad for the brain and causes cognitive dulling and a very congested place that was already
1 minute remaining.
labeled as D before the Marriott was built. It doesn't make any sense to have cognitive impaired individuals in a busy, congested area, and it's the wrong message to our kids. Our society doesn't care about kids, and Mayor Wu needs to explain why she doesn't care about the kids in this area.
All right, so in case there's any confusion, this is not a proposal that is being put forth by the mayor's office. We're here to facilitate a community process, but this is not going to be owned or operated by the mayor's office, neither are we here to relitigate whether or not cannabis should be legal. So moving on to the next hand we have raised, I see Leyland Webster with a raised hand, so I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin. I apologize, Leyland, if the applicant had anything that they wanted to address there, feel free to do so. No, okay. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go to Leyland now. So Leyland, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Frank. I'm opposed to a dispensary at this location. I agree with the points that Cheryl made. And others who said it's a prominent location. We have a lot of young people around here with a park close by that's not going to be really monitored for what flows in that's coming from the dispensary. And there's a minority of people in our neighborhood, surely, who partake of marijuana. I'm not among that minority. And so the rest of us had to put up with this noxious use at that location when there are plenty of other opportunities, plenty of other places to get marijuana if one needs it. There's a location in Brookline. Cheryl mentioned the Dana-Farber. So I'm opposed to it. I want to go on record as saying that. I don't care who's running it at the location. It's too prominent. It's going to be attracting a lot of unsavory elements.
1 minute.
You're going to be attracting a lot of people, young folks who are just in the area. Doesn't benefit the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, applicant, if there's anything you want to respond to there. Okay, we'll go to the next hand then. William R. Mills, I see you've got your hand raised. I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin. Are you there, William?
Yep, you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so I'm Bill Mills. I'm the Director of Community Affairs at Boston College. We opposed this Happy Valley proposal when they were looking to go into the old Mary Ann's building. And so we would oppose them going into the former Dunkin' Donuts site. We just don't feel that this is the proper location for our marijuana facility. Many of our students frequent the Cleveland Circle area. They patronize the businesses in the Cleveland Circle area. And we just don't think that's a good mix, you know, particularly where a great majority of our students are under 21 years of age. There's also a lot of Brookline High students who also frequent that area. You know, they're in Pino's and they're in some of the other stores that are there. And so there's a lot of young people that could be influenced by this. So we're opposed to Happy Valley going in here.
1 minute.
Yep. And I think that's it. I think other people have kind of made the point, but you know, parking is an issue. There's 13 spots or whatever number of spots. There's going to be some for employee parking, but there'll be a lot of street parking the whole bit. A lot of times you go by there during the day and, you know, parking is very difficult, even finding a meter on Beacon Street. So for those reasons, you know, we're opposed to it. And thank you for taking that testimony.
If I can respond to that, Frank.
Sure, go ahead.
Just quickly. So again, this is if folks are underage and have fake IDs, they're not allowed into this location. Students underage are not allowed into this location. And we went over in our security plan how the technology verifies all IDs, and that is checked closely at 3 different points. So this is not a place where high school students and underage college students are going to be allowed in or welcomed in at this location or any location. It's against the law.
All right, the next raised hand I see is from Phyllis. So Phyllis, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you are ready, your 2 minutes begin.
Hi, my name is Les Christos. I'm Phyllis's husband, and I live up off of Sutherland Road, and I would be opposed to this project. I agree with Mr. Mills that there are a lot of high school kids walking in the area. They use Pino's. They use a lot of the businesses there. And I feel that marijuana is going to be smoked around this establishment in the park. And I just don't think it's good for the community. And I have a question for Mr. Drago. The Mary Ann's, is that all set to go? That location, there are legal problems with that? And I just want to be on record being against this pot store in the area. I don't see what community benefit it brings. That's about it.
So just to answer that question, and I appreciate your comments. So we were approved. There were some legal issues that came up that were filed while we were sorting that out, and it was just an appeal. This location did become available, and in looking at it and weighing the parking, we felt this was a better location. So called a happy accident. But if this is not something that the community and the cannabis board or the zoning board would approve, we would retain our rights to move and keep going forward with the Mary Ann's location. It's just this is a much better location for a number of reasons that I mentioned earlier, but the number one being parking, because most of the facilities in Boston, and you can check them out, do not have parking. So.
Okay, the next raised hand that I see is from Jameson Brown. So I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin.
Hi, I'm Jameson Brown. I represent the owners of 2001 Beacon Street, which is about 30,000 square foot commercial office building. And I believe we're really the only direct abutter. And we actually didn't receive notice. So I'm not sure what happened there. I found out about this meeting from someone else in the community. But we do oppose it. We have a number of small businesses in our property. We have medical uses, doctor's office, dentists, and we just think it's detrimental to the property and will just negatively affect the businesses in our building. And
Okay.
it's also a very public location. I think if it was maybe further away from this, wasn't so visible, that might be better. That's it.
So if I can just talk about a little bit about notifications. So we were provided a list and provided all of the mailings that went out. So every abutter that was on that list got a certified mail, as well as a flyering occurred as well. But if you didn't receive a flyer, then a mailing went to the owner of the building as well. So that would have been certified mail, and that was sent through the required process that the city had asked us to comply with as well. So there were multiple notifications that were sent out.
Okay, the next raised hand that I see is Peter Freed. So Peter, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin.
Hello, thank you. I am a 21-year resident of Brighton. I live on Notting Hill Road. I support Cleveland Circle businesses, which is why I support Jonathan Lau as opposed to Happy Valley. I am not against a dispensary opening up. There is a bar right there, the Circle Tavern. I would be against Carrie Nation coming in with her hatchet and bashing that up. I do not want a carpetbagger coming in. I have seen John turn away underage people at his business. I support and believe in him. I want to support local businesses, not carpetbaggers coming from elsewhere. Also, my partner is in total agreement, if you will.
1 minute remaining.
Yes, yes, I completely agree.
The fact that Happy Valley is even in this position, I find unbelievable, because Jonathan Lau started his process 5 years ago and was turned down because of proximity to the community pool there. How is it possible that a different company could come in and then get an approval? And I'm not supporting that is a good reason for disallowing a licensed dispensary in the area. I do support that, but I only support Jonathan Lau as a longtime member of the Cleveland Circle business community. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go next to Billy, who has a hand raised. Billy, I've asked you to unmute yourself whenever you're ready. Your 2 minutes will begin.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I live in the Brookline area as well, the Cleveland Circle area. I'm very close. I spent my entire life shopping in the area, and I know John. I've patronized his business before. He's a wonderful human being. He's the exact opposite of these carpetbaggers trying to go into Cleveland Circle community and just extract. What do they know about this community? And I understand. I've seen the processes for other cities, other parts of Boston. No community really wants a dispensary. But why would you want a large corporation going into your community and ransacking it? Wouldn't you want a local, someone who's been there since the 80s, a small business owner, to be part of this, rather than, I'm so sorry, Happy Valley and their less than desirable practices? And from the online sources, it looks like they don't have a very good product either. I just disagree with Happy Valley, and I think it's disgusting that they're even in the discussion for this. If there's going to be a dispensary, it should be a local person who's a valued member of the community that receives the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next raised hand I see is that of Brian Matthews. So Brian, I've asked you to unmute whenever you're ready. Are you with us, Brian? Hello? Brian? Brian, unfortunately, we can't hear you. I will circle back to you after our next raised hand. So we'll go now to Shannon Donovan. Shannon Donovan, I see you've got a hand raised. I've asked you to unmute. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Okay, hold on a second. All right, let's not have cross chatter. I'm sorry, Shannon. Let's give Brian a second and then, or his 2 minutes rather, and then we'll go to you, Shannon. So Brian, whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I apologize to the person who was just speaking up and for not having a clear microphone here. I thank you for letting me take a turn to speak briefly. I just wanted to say that I do really respect everyone that has spoken before and whomever may speak after me. But it is true, the debate isn't a debate anymore. It has been passed and legalized marijuana. I strongly can feel where people are coming from in terms of their opposition in regards of living close to the proximity of that location. There is, however, also a liquor store in Cleveland Circle that has been there for many, many years, which you're supposed to be 21 years old to purchase there as well. So the debate, it can't be a debate anymore. They've already decided a certain number of liquor stores means a certain number of dispensaries. And so here we are. And my thing is, like a previous person who said, You know, if there's going to be a dispensary, let it be a person who's been in the community for years, who has kids that go to school in Brookline, who's focused on making sure that the community stays. He's putting his name and reputation on the line. This other business, who, by the way, has very low scores on Indeed, if it doesn't pan out, they'll tuck and run. They have other locations. This, you know, this is a person's dream that has been, you know, striving within the community, doing it the right way for many years, and to be shunned away multiple times now. If this doesn't work out for him, it's been multiple times. He's been let down. And I just feel like, why are we continuing to overlook the local people? We get it. You know, they legalized it because they want money, but they're going to get their money. And this person is going to do the right thing by the community at this location. And this is what it is. So I think we should definitely give him a shot, and not this other corporation that is only coming in because they see dollar signs. And they're not going to care about the community like someone who is going to stay here for years more. And thank you for letting me speak. Have a good night, everybody.
So Frank, if I can just make one comment again. So this is not about Happy Valley versus another applicant. I don't know anything about the other applicant. It sounds like he's a great person, but our intention was, you know, we were approved for a license. I don't know anything about the other application. We don't work for the government authorities to grant these applications or dispensary licenses or review the applications, but I have no idea what went into that or what the process was like, and we wish them the best. We're simply here to talk about relocating from an approved location, but 150 feet away, to what we felt was a better location because it offered parking and it was near the other Mary Ann's or former location, Mary Ann's. That's what we're really here to talk about. And, you know, we don't know anything about another applicant. We don't know anything about the details of what went into that. And again, we're just here to have our community meeting to explain why we're looking at this, what we feel is a better location, both for us as well as for the community. And we understand if there's another applicant that you know wants a license, and we you know obviously wish him the best or her the best, but that's not why we're here. We don't know anything about that other application. So I just want to put that on the record.
Okay, the next raised hand that I have is Shannon Donovan. Shannon, thank you for waiting. Sorry about the mix up there. I've asked you to unmute. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Sure, I'll be quick. Everything that Brian said, the person who spoke before me, I reiterate all of that. It just seems like, I mean, this is still a pretty new industry, and it seems unfair to have like a chain store basically coming into a neighborhood where there's somebody there that really wants to do it, that knows the business and has put their whole heart and soul into trying to get this off of the ground, only to be met with a wall. And it's not just him. Of course I want Jonathan to get it, but anybody that's just not part of a big conglomerate corporation, I think would be better than a big name corporation. It just doesn't seem fair that it seems like somebody's hat is bigger in the ring, and it doesn't feel fair. That's all.
Okay, thank you. The next raised hand that I see is Dmitry Babenko. So Dmitry, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin. Dmitry, are you with us?
Hello, how you doing? Sorry about that. But yes, I own a small business in Brighton, and I also support John Lau and all the other small businesses. I don't think it's a great location for a dispensary and down there on Beacon and Chestnut Street. I don't think the parking is adequate enough for 13 spots for the employees and customers. I think it's gonna cause a lot of traffic, and it can even cause an accident just in that location, in that corner. It's mostly residential and school and medical facilities and offices. But yeah, that's all I had to say today, and I want to give time to someone else to say something else.
Okay. If there's any response the applicant would like to make, all right, we'll go to.
Sure, just quickly. Again, this is a retail type operation like any business in that area. It's not going to generate any more traffic or bodies, and likely will be less. Folks will be in and out faster than even at a restaurant. So.
Okay, we'll go to the next raised hand then, which is Donnell Senior O'Neill. Donnell, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Good evening, everyone. Donnell O'Neill Senior speaking. I was just a little curious on. I just need clarification on the approval. So, did they negotiate? Where was the public notified on the location transfer with the license itself at the same time? I guess that's my question. Because I see that you've already been approved. No one's arguing that already. If they are, they shouldn't be arguing that you've already been approved. But was there any communication with the community about location transfer? And that's it really. Any communication with the neighborhood other than this meeting now, or is this the first one?
So great question, Donnell. So this is the first public meeting, and the reason being is that the way this is handled at the cannabis board level is you need to get a refusal letter or a turn down letter from Boston Inspectional Services Department before you can move forward with the process and the application process. So we really had to wait to get our design plans together to file with the cannabis board, then to inspectional services for the refusal letter that outlines the conditional violation that then allows us to reach out to Mr. Mendoza and the city to have a community meeting. So this is our first meeting to describe that, which you're asking about. And then we would also be required to go before the Brighton Allston Improvement Association for another 2 meetings for our community process.
All right, we'll go to the next raised hand, which is Eric. Eric, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric. I live in the neighborhood of Cleveland Circle, and I've lived here for about 10 years. I share a lot of concerns that other people have stated here. One thing I don't think we touched upon with the parking situation is, you're selling a psychotropic substance, and then people will be getting into their cars in a heavily populated area with lots of other drivers, lots of pedestrians. There's a lot of people that are hit by cars here in Boston generally. And I don't think that's a good idea. Like, if we have to have a dispensary in Cleveland Circle, I would much rather have it be in a non-freestanding, less visible area without parking. Secondly, I'm interested in this community education aspect. I was taking a look at your website. I have a background in pharmacy. I went to Mass College of Pharmacy, and you have this page talking about medical uses of cannabis, and like the number one on the list is cancer, which is just ridiculous. I mean, there's no oncologist who's going to tell people to take cannabis to treat cancer. I think we all know that. Just because it works in a test tube doesn't mean it works in the body. And I'm just concerned about what requirement there is for informed consent of possible risks to users, and how you would address that if it is a legal requirement, and if it's not, would you be willing to do that for the good of the community? Thanks.
So, Jeff, John Gray would be the most appropriate person to answer compliance issues regarding notice to consent and how the CCC regulates, our messaging.
Okay. Is John still on?
Yep, I'm here, sir. So we're very tightly regulated by the Cannabis Control Commission. I just lost my train of thought. What, can you just ask one party question again about the consent?
Informed consent, like in the pharmaceutical industry, patients or customers have to be informed of like the side effects of medication. Is there any requirement for that?
Oh, yes.
And
Okay, so
how
yes,
do you
question.
share that with?
We are regulated to have what they call patient information pamphlets, and all our hosts are trained to give people the information that they're requesting. Say a person comes in and they have some sort of ailment, such as insomnia or anything like that. We do have patient information booklets, and we are regulated and mandated by the Cannabis Control Commission to hand those out and go over these informational pamphlets with the customer. Excuse me. And all our hosts are well trained in how to discuss issues privately with medical patients, things like that. And we do have spaces in our facility for a private consultation area to speak privately. So if you do have some sort of ailment that you don't want to discuss openly in the middle of the store, there will be a patient consultation area that you can go and discuss privately any of your questions or concerns, or discuss any ailments you might have and what could possibly help your issue.
That's not exactly what if I can respond.
Yeah, so cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug, and therefore there is no scientific research that has ever been allowed in our country. So we don't have any scientific data as it relates to patient trial studies and stuff like that. So it's just not a pharmaceutical type situation where a prescription has been issued and then you have an interaction with that. It's just not the way that the industry is operating.
Okay, has anybody who has not already spoken? Okay, yep, I see we have a raised hand by 617909. So I've asked you to unmute yourself whenever you are ready. Your 2 minutes will begin.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, yes and yeah. So I live in Brighton, but not in the Cleveland Circle area. Parking. Mr. Drago, when he first talked about the visitors could park there and all that stuff, and there'd be one handicap space. But he also mentioned about staff. I mean, staff shouldn't be parking there. I mean, how many people are going to be working there? There's 6 people. So anyways, handicap parking, which I have, medical marijuana. I've gone to Netta in Brookline, the corner of Route 9 and Washington Street. And when I first went there, they didn't have, even though they've advertised, they didn't have handicap parking. So I went to the person in Brookline Town Hall, and I think the next day or 2 days later, they had parking, and they had parking right in front. So there's 3 spaces. There's 3 spaces in front. That would be helpful. And Brookline has police out there. So I don't know if you're always going to have a policeman out there, but in Brookline, they seem to always have a police officer there. So those spaces, the 3 spaces in front, so maybe that could be handicapped. Now you say the bathroom, you mentioned there was a bathroom in the basement, but is that just for staff? So it probably is, but I don't know. Is that just for staff? I've just got some other thing here. And let me see what else I have here. Again, I'm not really, I think the traffic is the main problem right there also. So I think the location. Now, what's the next step? You said does this get voted by, who actually is the final step that approves this? You mentioned the Austin Brighton improvement. So I'm going to talk about the parking and the bathroom and who actually approves this. And thank you very much.
Okay, Frank, can I answer that? Sorry, just quickly. So again, we can certainly look at adding the one dedicated space that I pointed out for handicap is just big enough for a van. So that's why we pointed out. We can certainly look at adding a few additional handicap spots. And again, this isn't meant for staff. It's just that there's enough parking on this site, which I had mentioned is unique to most of the sites in Boston because they don't have any parking. So obviously customers would be first. And there's enough area for pickup and drop off for ride share, which most locations don't have the ability to have that as well. But we also feel that with these local dispensaries and more of them are opening up, this becomes more of a local retail dispensary shop where folks can walk to it and take public transportation because they live right in the area. That's the vision, and that's what's been happening as these open up more and more across the city. The bathroom question, no one is allowed except staff in the basement area, so that's why that has a private bathroom. But I pointed out in the plans that there are restrooms upstairs as well, so those that would have access to. And then your third question was the process. So tonight is on a butter community meeting. We would also appear before the Civic Association, the BAIA, for 2 meetings, and then ultimately this is decided by the Cannabis Board. So the Cannabis Board, we would appear first, and they would either approve us or deny our application, or they could defer it. It's up to them. We're hoping they approve it. And at that point, we would forego pursuing our application or moving forward with the location at 1937 Beacon. So if we were approved, we would forego the other one, but ultimately we would still have to go before the Boston Zoning Board of Appeal for the use variance that's required. So there is a lengthy process. It's the Cannabis Board for the licensing, if you will, and our host community agreement that's drafted with them in conjunction with the law department, and that after we were approved, and then ultimately it's the use permit by the Boston Zoning Board of Appeal. And even after that, there's an appeal waiting period. There's getting all your building drawings together after that for ISD, inspectional services. There's construction build outs. So we're a long ways away. But the authorities in this process are the Boston Cannabis Board, the Zoning Board of Appeal, and then on the state side, the CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission.
All right, I'm going to take a look through in case anybody's raised their hands on their camera again. But seeing nothing, we will jump back to regular raised hands. So Ava, I've asked you to unmute. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Thank you. Well, Frank, actually, I have a comment that is directed at you as the city representative. You mentioned that we are not supposed to question, the legality of this business and so on. And I understand that, most people voted for legalizing pot, but that was with the understanding that we just didn't want young people to have criminal records. It didn't mean that everyone who voted for decriminalizing pot really wanted a big industry to be created. And the city has the responsibility to have a policy that promote, wholesome, useful uses in our town centers. When I go to Coolidge Corner, there is a lovely booksmith store with books and gifts to buy, all kinds of charming, inviting businesses. And for some reason, Cleveland Circle is supposed to be a place where only mind-numbing things are supposed to be sold. We have of course, the liquor store, bars, vape shop. There is a big advertisements for cigarettes on the convenience store wall on Chestnut Hill Avenue. It is really very discouraging for those of us who are trying to elevate this area to constantly deal with this onslaught of things that are just so lowbrow. I don't understand. Why can't we aspire to be a little better? So people who live here don't have to go to Coolidge Corner to have a nice experience. And having said that, I really would like to know what the process is from now on. The previous location was approved, but I understand that after 2 years, or it's been probably 3 years by now, approvals like that expire. So I do not believe that they could just open this thing at the Mary Ann's location. And
all right, that's been 2 minutes. So again, we're not here to relitigate whether or not cannabis will be legal in the state of Massachusetts. That's just not within the scope of this meeting. This meeting is to discuss, anybody who might have comments, questions, or concerns regarding to the merits of this particular proposal. Regarding the process, I know Jeff just went through that with the previous question. Jeff, if you'd like to repeat that just one more time, the process for this particular proposal.
So thanks, Frank. So right now we are in the community process piece of the dispensary process as a whole. After we complete community process, which would include this meeting, meeting with the local civic association for a vote, which is the BAIA, we would then move on to the Boston Cannabis Board and ask if they would grant us the dispensary license, which really comes down to a host community agreement that we would have to work out with the law department. We would then move on to the Boston Zoning Board of Appeal. Once the cannabis, if we were approved by the Boston Cannabis Board, and if we were approved by the Board of Appeal, we would wait the appeal period and then start our, filing for a permit to start construction, and in the same breath also informing the CCC of the change. And they already know, but everything runs to the CCC anyway, and so that would pretty much be it.
Thank you. Next raised hand I have is Eric. Whenever you're ready, Eric, your 2 minutes will begin.
Hi, I just, hi, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the response that I got about my question. There are clinical trials into marijuana. If there aren't, where is this information coming from that you're advising medical patients about? Who are the people advising medical patients? Do they have medical backgrounds? And the thing about informed consent of risks of using marijuana, how come that isn't automatically provided to all customers, recreational or medical?
Once again, we're not selling prescription drugs that went through clinical studies and come with all of the information that would be typical of a pharmaceutical transaction between a patient, a doctor who prescribed the medicine and whatnot. What we provide is information as to the anecdotal effects and relief as described through patients and customers who have consumed the products in the various ways in which they are able to consume and through various forms of consumption. So a lot of it is, what is an edible? Yeah, and how is an edible made? So we talk about the formulations, what went into that product, and the anecdotal type of relief that certain patients and customers have provided feedback on. That is how the industry operates.
Okay, the next raised hand I have is from Cheryl. So Cheryl, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Again, I sincerely think we need to invite the mayor to come down here. We can get scientists from Mass Mental Health Center to also meet to educate about what it means for young people to be exposed to marijuana. This is an environment where it is filled with young people. The mayor needs to take ownership of this. It's her responsibility, not the cannabis board, who doesn't know anything about the current science of marijuana.
Okay, the next raised hand I have is Peter Freed. So Peter, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate my support for Jonathan Lau to be the license holder for a legal dispensary in Cleveland Circle as a longtime.
Okay, Peter,
member of
we've
the
heard a lot of
business.
people. We've heard a lot of people speaking in support of Mr. Lau already. Do you have anything new that you'd like to add relating to this particular proposal?
My question earlier was answered. Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you. What was your question from earlier that you'd like answered?
How Jonathan Lau could have been denied 5 years ago or 4 years ago due to proximity to the swimming pool, which I'm would not with, but how somebody not from the Cleveland Circle business community could come in and then get an approval. That makes no sense, and it smacks of discrimination to me, or perhaps even political shenanigans.
Okay, well, again, we are here discussing this particular proposal, which again has neither been approved nor rejected by the board. They haven't had their hearing date yet. We've gone over the process a couple of times. But if you'd like to connect with me, we can rediscuss that process again. If there's any additional questions that you would like answered after this meeting. The next raised hand I see is from Zoom user. So Zoom user, I've asked you to unmute. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin. Zoom user, I've sent a second request for you to unmute. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 2 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I think what I want to bring up to everyone's attention is the fact that with a dispensary, it's just like any bar or liquor store. The way to keep the minors and students and stuff away from it is all going to be in how it's being ran. The employees that have to check IDs, the security. You're going to get a better level in that area by somebody who is local and directly affected in his own home and community by not doing a good job. And I don't want to get cut short because I do support John Lau, but I support that because of those reasons. He is local. Anything that his business does, it is going to affect his home and his family directly. This larger company that has no bearing in the community is only about the money that they can bring into their pocket. And they show no history in any of their other businesses and locations of not affecting or showing a positive effect to their community. So that's all I wanted to say is just that, there are special steps in being an employee or a company that moves into any community. And when there are guidelines that they have to follow, it is important to have a company that's going to be in there and somebody that's going to be in there that is directly affected by the decisions that they make, not only for the bottom line, but for the community around them. And when they live in it, they take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next raised hand that I see from Phyllis Christos. Phyllis, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
I'm probably repeating myself, but I'd be remiss in not stating that the area of Cleveland Circle has so much open space. And, you have the skating rink, you have the park, you have the reservoir, you have a ton of young kids from Brookline High, a ton of young college students that live in the area. And let's be honest, they're going to be getting marijuana and they're going to be smoking it in the area. They're not going to smoke it in their houses. As a child of the 60s, that's what we did. We would get our booze and our marijuana, we'd go in the woods, we'd go in the open spaces and we'd smoke it. It's a terrible location. My family's lived here for 80 years. We've had the same house. And I know what I'm talking about. I understand it's going to go through. There's not much we can do about it. But, I'd be remiss in saying that I think it's a terrible idea for the area. The college students are there. They're drunk. City side is packing them in. What's going to stop them from going over to the pot shop and getting some pot and walking around? God, I don't want another kid to end up in the reservoir. So,
1 minute.
Terrible idea. That's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next raised hand I have is from DE. I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Hi, I just want to say that this is a terrible location because of the proximity of public space, especially for children. There's the Beaconsfield playground right behind, the park, Cassidy Park, the swimming pool open in the summer, and then the ice skating rink, in the winter, and then the whole reservoir, the park. So there's really bad traffic in this area already. I'm sure you guys been talking about that. And that just add to it. And it's a really negative thing for the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next raised hand I have is Sal. Sal, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
Hey Frank, how you doing? So I guess I just have a procedural question, right? So this meeting was part of a process. So like, were you keeping a scorecard and you go back and you tell the neighborhood services the general consensus on whether people liked it or didn't like it, or it just goes down on the books as a meeting?
No, so part of what our office does is facilitating these meetings is testifying to the board as to the outcome of the abutters meeting regarding the community stances. If we have any particular number of letters of support or opposition, we'll detail that number to the board as well, just like we do for the zoning and for the licensing boards.
So you were kind of keeping track of, like, if it's a 50-50 split, support against, or more or less, or?
You could think of it that way. I mean, we'll, report to the board the number of people who are in support or the number of people who are in opposition, the general reasons for that support or opposition, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next raised hand I have is from Orfeo. Orfeo, I've asked you to unmute yourself. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will begin.
So I just want to add, I've lived here since like 91, 92, and there's always going to be drug dealers in Cleveland Circle. That being said, now that it's legal, you guys can all coexist. But for years, you probably didn't know there were drug dealers in Cleveland Circle. We don't need that to know that there's a dispensary without, and people will still know that it's available, whether they make it available through restaurants or they make some sort of deal or have them team up with the liquor stores. The kids are going to get it either way. Just because it's in Cleveland Circle, it doesn't mean that the kids are not going to get it for that matter. It's just keeping it away, out of sight, out of mind, so that they're not thinking about it.
1 minute.
And I don't know what we can do about the smell, but that's just, it's an unfortunate byproduct of pot. Same thing with nips on the ground, people drinking in public. You're going to have that. So, I mean, I say eliminate it all, but society's not ready for that yet. And yeah, there's just smarter ways we can do it, and they can still make all the money. We just need to put in better businesses in Cleveland Circle than liquor stores and pot shops. Put in a daycare. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, seeing no additional raised hands, we'll go ahead and conclude this meeting for tonight. Again, my name is Frank Mendoza, also in Brighton Liaison for the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. And this is a publicly recorded meeting. So if you want to see a copy of this meeting, send me an email. Similarly, if you have a comment to make or question to make that you think of after the fact, I can connect you with the applicant. If it's something city related, and maybe I can answer it myself. Otherwise, thanks everybody for attending this meeting, and have a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.